it strange that the busier we get, the more productive we become? Why does it seem like having more time actually makes us less efficient? I used to think that having an open schedule would allow me to get everything done, until I realized I was actually getting less done than when I was juggling multiple projects. One of the most confusing but tremendous ironies in life is that we often get more done when we're already busy than when we have this endless amount of free time. Why, you might ask? As necessity forces discipline. I'm going to give an example of Robert Bannister and the 4-minute mile. Before 1954, it was widely believed that no human could run a mile under 4 minutes. But on May 6th, 1954, Robert Bannister broke the barrier, running a 3-minute and 59-second mile. Then just 46 days later, John Landy broke the record. Within a few years, multiple runners achieved what most thought was impossible. Okay, so this is in relation to the self-efficacy theory, which indicates that seeing someone else achieve the impossible increases belief that others can do it too. It breaks down mental barriers that allow athletes who once believed that something was impossible now train with the confidence that it's within reach. It's just that once the limit is broken, new strategies, technologies, nutrition are refined to help more people achieve the same. Okay, and then there's the Parkinson's law, which suggests that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. If you have an entire day to fill one task, it will take the entire day. But if you only have 1 hour, you'll find a way to get it done. Another reason why this works is that there's less decision fatigue and overthinking. When we have too much free time, we tend to procrastinate, overanalyze, and just delay action. I know that we've all been there, but it's when we're busy, just don't have the time or the luxury to overthink anything. We just do. Another reason why this works is getting into the flow state, and there's this momentum and flow. Action breeds action. When you're already in motion, it's much easier to keep it going. It's much easier to stay in motion. That's why busy people stay productive. They don't have the time to dilly-dally and overthink anything. They have to just do. So there are several books that explore the paradox of productivity and the idea of busyness, where when structured well, we can actually enhance our discipline, efficiency, and success. So here's a few philosophies to this concept. A favorite of mine is called The War of Art. The main idea is just that resistance, referring to like self-doubt and procrastination, grows when we have too much freedom. Because at the end of the day, creativity and productivity actually thrive under structure and discipline. Pressfield argues that professionals show up to do the work, regardless of the distractions. The busier you are with meaningful pursuits, the less space there is for resistance to creep in. Okay, I wanted to read one part of this book that isn't really correlated with this idea, but I think it's a great start. And he says that the part that needs healing is our personal life. Personal life has nothing to do with the work. Besides, what better way of healing than to find our center of sovereignty, of self-sovereignty? Isn't that the whole point of healing? I love this so much. It literally just gave me the chills, because I don't think people realize that in order to get into a flow state and in order to change our minds and change and move through life from a place of love, compassion, and kindness, not just for others, but especially for ourselves, and be really patient with ourselves throughout this, in just knowing that we are finding our center of sovereignty through healing all of the things that we've gone through and how we've showed up and how we continue to show up. And being able to trust ourselves in that way is through healing and through feeling good about ourselves, because it's when we start to feel good about ourselves that we're able to start focusing on the important things in life, which is those desires and those goals, and like feeling free and feeling liberated and feeling inspired and living in a flow state. Because it's when we do the things that aren't for our own good and for the good of others as well, that's when we sort of are distracted and we can't focus on the right things, whether that be through the concept of feeling guilt or feeling shame or feeling sadness, what have you. Okay, so another book that I absolutely love is called Essentialism by McKeown. The main idea is just that being productive isn't about doing everything, but focusing on the right things. So McKeown in this book explores how people who take on way too much get trapped in the concept of inefficiency. But those who carefully structure time end up accomplishing so much more. Some core quotes that he says that have been life-changing for me is that he says that if you don't prioritize your life, somebody else will. Meaning, if you don't set your boundaries and decide what's important, other people will fill your time with their priorities. He has this one chapter about the power of saying no. McKeown argues that saying no is a skill and a necessity. For example, instead of agreeing to every single request, ask yourself, is this the most important thing that I could be doing right now? I understand the feeling of being a people pleaser and wanting to help fulfill the dreams of everybody surrounding you and to help make everybody happy. But honestly, you need to make yourself happy first. You need to build yourself first. When you are able to build yourself up first, I promise you, you'll be able to help so many more others in your life, and that in turn will feel fulfilling and help you in the long run. There's also the book, The 80-20 Principle, Pareto's Principle, where it essentially says that 80% of your results come from 20% of your effort. So the idea is that you can apply this ratio to every single thing in your life. You can say something as simple as 80% of the clothes that I wear. You can say something like, I wear 20% of my closet 80% of the time. And there's so much truth to that. Like, we live in a world and in a time where just complete overconsumption. And I think we live in a new day and age. Like, I would love to see this world move forward more so in, of course, good quality items, but also becoming more thoughtful and mindful when purchased and not overspending and purchasing a whole collection of bags. Like, we don't need more than we actually need, you know? And so I just feel like we live in this society where people are just wanting more and over consuming. Nonetheless, let's get back into the concept. Let's get back to the subject. Essentialists focus on high impact activities rather than spreading themselves too thin. He says in this book, eliminate the trivial, many for the vital few. Essentially, what he's saying is that most things in life are distractions. Start to identify the few things that really matter and focus on them. Make a commitment. If it is not a clear yes, then it is a clear no. Meaning, stop saying maybe or I guess I should. Things that don't excite you or deeply matter. Okay, so another interesting book is The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. The main idea is just that power and productivity often come from understanding the hidden structures of work, discipline, and just human nature. Why this fits for this concept, Robert Greene emphasizes how necessity, change, and pressure create high performers. He frequently references historical figures who thrived under immense demands. This is law number 9, win through your actions, never through an argument. Any momentary triumph you think you've gained through argument is really a Pyrrhic victory. I had to look this up, but Pyrrhic victory means it's a victory that is won at such a great cost that it is essentially a defeat. The term comes from the name of the king Pyrrhus of Epirus, who won the battle of Esculum in 279 BCE, but lost many of his soldiers. The resentment and ill will you stir up is stronger and lasts longer than any momentary change of opinion. It is much more powerful to get others to agree with you through your actions without saying a word. Demonstrate, do not explicate. At the end of the day, true demonstrate, do not explicate, which I love. I think this also saves so much time. True productivity comes from action, not endless debate. Let the results speak louder than the words. Okay, and then we have law number 29, which is plan all the way to the end. The ending is everything. Plan all the way to it, taking into account all the possibilities, consequences, obstacles, and twists of fortune that might reverse your hard work and give the glory to others. By planning to the end, you will not be overwhelmed by circumstances and you will know when to stop. Gently guide fortune and help determine the future by thinking far ahead. Great productivity comes from having a clear long-term vision rather than being distracted by short-term tasks. And I can give you a perfect example to this. I actually went on a trip recently, and in order to go on this trip, I knew I needed to make sure that my teammates had work to do while I was gone, and that's my responsibility. And so I told myself that week before I was leaving and that day before I left, I was like, I am gonna break my record of designing 20 pieces in a day. And if you guys don't know, I am a fashion designer on the side. I've been doing it for about 2 decades now, which is wild. But nonetheless, I told myself I was going to break that record. And in order to do so, I made a list of all of the things that I needed to accomplish in that day and throughout that week. And just by having that long-term vision of that week, it allowed me to excel in ways that I never even knew that I would be able to. And I think that there's this aspect of just being able to strive for bettering ourselves through just this limited amount of time that we have. So in essence, the idea is just that great productivity comes from having a clear long-term vision rather than being distracted by short-term. You know, it's so funny reading this book now because I find that there are so many contradictions in this book, but as I have in my spiritual inner being, I am seeing these laws a lot more different than I used to, and I feel as though they're a lot more clear. So we're going to get into law 30 and how it could seem like a contradiction, but make your accomplishments seem effortless. Your actions must seem natural and executed with ease. All the toil and practice that go into them and also all the clever tricks must be concealed. When you act effortlessly as if you could do much more. Avoid the temptation of revealing how hard you work. It only raises questions. Teach no one your tricks or they will be used against you. There's a little bit of trickery there, which I can't necessarily relate to because I believe in a more spiritual aspect where I believe that when we give more, we receive more back. The part that I take from this is that there is this essence where highly disciplined people somehow make things seem much more effortless, even when it's built on intense preparation and structure. I think it's just this idea of planning so far forward that you are able to know that you can handle the situation. And also by emotionally regulating yourself and your reactions to things can help in this case. The idea of making your accomplishments seem effortless is just training yourself to become the best version of yourself. So we're going to get into law number 35, which is master the art of timing. Never seem to be in a hurry. Hurrying betrays a lack of control over yourself and over time. Always seem patient, as if you know that everything will come to you eventually. Become a detective of the right moment. Sniff out the spirit of the times, the trends that will carry you to power. Learn to stand back when the time is not yet ripe, and to strike fiercely when it is reached fruition. Knowing when to act is just as important as working hard. Productivity isn't just about the effort, but it's about strategic execution at the right moment. I think there's an interesting way to talk about this because when it comes to design, in my world at least, there's always a right time for something, and if I find a new wonderful design for a specific season that I'm not designing into and that we're not currently working on, it's put into my library. And I know that it's going to be appropriate later on, but just because I see something that's a treasure doesn't mean I act on it right away, unless it is something for this moment. But I think really knowing when to execute and when to jump on it and when not to is so important and key. Atomic Habits is the next book that we're going to talk about. Small habits, but big results. Every action that you take is a step towards the person that you are becoming, or the type of person that you wish to become. It's about the tiny, consistent steps that you take. The tiny, consistent steps compound over time into massive success. He says that you do not rise to the level of your goal. You fall to the level of your system. Goals give you a direction, but it's the systems that create lasting productivity. Success is the product of daily habits, not once in a lifetime transformation. True productivity comes from consistency, not occasional bursts of effort. It's like I said earlier, it's about acting like a stream, like this stream in a forest. It's not like the waterfall. I love this. There's this one part in the book that talks about the power of identity-based habits. The most effective way to change your habits is to focus not on what you want to achieve, but on who you wish to become. Rather than just setting the goal, as in saying, I want to be productive, adopt the identity by saying, I am disciplined. Okay, so now we're going to get into how to leverage this idea on your own. We can start off first by reframing the way you perceive things. Reframe busy as a blessing. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by multiple responsibilities, see them as a built-in structure that will help you accomplish more than you thought possible. I think you can use the idea of stacking habits in Atomic Habits, where if you already have certain habits in place, like when you make your coffee in the morning, you know, before you drink your coffee, maybe you drink a glass of water, and that would be considered stacking a habit because you already have a habit in place and you're stacking another one before that lot of time. So there's the idea of time blocking and prioritizing. If you're busy, make sure you organize your time. Make sure you organize your tasks into blocks of time. This prevents overwhelm and creates more efficiency. Okay, so another way is start to use deadlines to your advantage. Set artificial deadlines for yourself. Use Google Calendar. Even if something doesn't have a due date, create one, because if you don't, you never will. Avoid wasting free time. If you ever find yourself with too much open space in your schedule, structure it intentionally. Otherwise, it will literally just slip away. We've all been there, and we know what it is like to scroll mindlessly on our phone and do whatever it takes, whether that's, you know, adding a little timer on your phone just to remind you to stop scrolling, or to decide that you're going to read 5 pages of a book a day, or even just 1 page. Start small. It's about becoming 1% better. It's not about perfection. I promise you, when you just start to take that one baby step day by day, it'll become a habit. Okay, so in conclusion, so the next time you're feeling overwhelmed, remember it's actually a good thing. It means that you're on your way to something even bigger. Have you also noticed that you work better when you're busy? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, subscribe. Don't forget, always remember that efficiency beats effort. When time is limited, we get more done in less time. And